Hey, as you guys know, I do get time to time mails, and sometimes even I get calls from viewers. In fact, I was indeed discussing with the viewer yesterday, and he was looking for a domain change. He's around close to 30 years or something like that. So he was looking for a domain change, and we had an interesting conversation. But besides that, I do tend to get in the form of mail or comments, or else private call, someone mentioning often that they are looking for a job, they are very desperate in terms of getting back to a job in case they have worked sometime and got laid off, or some issue, they quit the company and looking for a change or something like that. In fact, they do sometimes mention, I feel like dying myself, and things like that. So I'm not sure whether they are very serious about any sort of developing suicidal tendencies, or just like that they are using that word. But this is something as a part of discussion I got such type of words often being used, especially men, of course, and freshers, they tend to talk sometimes, but since they are quite new, and it depends, they are quite new and they are quite flexible. But often I see this issue whenever I discuss with anyone who is around 25 years plus, or 28, 30 or 35 or things like that. So often they tend to use such words, and as far as I know, there is a sort of misconception I felt is there. Many assume that people who are in IT industry especially, they develop this suicidal tendencies due to the work nature and stuff like that. I mean, there's a sort of this thing, and you can also find various news articles, newspapers or online news websites. You can find sometimes they may be mentioning that people working in a sector like IT are more prone in terms of getting into a situation like a suicide or something like that. But here is where the catch. I just want to give some inputs on my behalf as far as I have studied. See, you should understand IT, like I mentioned in a few episodes, quite recently I took few episodes about job, career and interviews and stuff. See, IT industry is majority of the industry is based on private sector. We don't have much government job. This is not something like army or banking or something. I mean, banking is a different sector altogether, where things do happen slowly, but things do happen in banking the way it has been around 100 years before or something like that. Of course, we have modern tools, we have online tools nowadays. If you want to get any fixed deposits or something like that, you do it online, you can do it in a smartphone. Versus those days, I still remember when I was a kid, I used to go with my mom to a bank, and we used to fill the form and get that FT done. And I still remember after 6 months we used to get that cash, and we can renew with some more additional money, or we can even take it and use it for home expenses. So this is what, sometimes if you want to buy some home appliance or something, you can get that fixed deposit and you can use it. So things were manual versus these days it is automated, but it is fairly the same concept as far as retail banking is considered. I am not talking about that back-end investor banking and other things, which of course have drastic changes throughout the decades. Okay, so these are certain fields are not going to change much. Okay, the only thing nowadays you see in the banks are everybody, the bank staff have become, they got this dual role. You go to any bank and ask any help. They do some help, and then immediately they ask about why don't you invest in this, why don't you do that, and they tend to do this marketing actually. And sometimes it really annoys us because we go there for some real issue, and instead of focusing that, they tend to focus on selling some products because they get incentives. So unfortunately, the front office staff is not in the banks, I mean to say, is not like this a while ago. Okay, if you compare a decade before, things are not so desperate versus these days. They do some work, assume you need to update your phone number or something. In India, still you need to give a form, and sometimes you need to give an entire address proof, ID proof, and stuff like that. So they do tend to take that application forms, and then besides they do tend to market other banking products, especially it can be some sometimes a credit card, sometimes some type of product like a ULIP link insurance policy or something like that. Okay, something which they get some incentives or sales commissions as part of that. So it's a different direction where banking is going towards, but it's going to be fairly the same. There is no much going to be any sort of drastic innovation. But when you get back to an industry like IT, okay, in fact this was a discussion yesterday, and he's around close to 30 years or something like that. So it happened a situation, I got a random call and I was discussing. So in the case of IT, unless until we don't update ourselves, what happens is by the time you reach an age of around 35 to 45 or 40 or something like that. So in case if you are not updated with respect to the trends and the technological aspects and things like that, and if you are working in or worked so far in some outdated technology, and now suddenly you are out of job and you are looking for a job, and in case if you are unable to find any openings at the same time, if you feel your skill sets is not going to be of any is not going to fetch you a quick job, then again you are going to face some issue. You need to once again go to some place, you need to update your skills, and then you need to start all over again. You need to even sometimes get into a new domain which you are not familiarized with. See, not everyone is going to become a manager, and even if you be a manager, even still this risk is going to develop. See, I just want to point it out. When my dad was in the movie industry, he always been as an associate, director, which means an assistant of a director. But he is not that keen or, passionate about becoming a director. See, one of the riskiest parts is once you get into a profession full-time, a profession like a director, after that you can never become lower than that. And once you become a director, and once in case if it is not clicking out for you, then absolutely you will not get any opportunities, and you will be completely will get bankrupt, because movie industry is not any organized sector. Even now it is not an organized sector. We all know that movie industries will never get any funding from banks. Just like that, they won't get any loans from the banks, and still it's an open secret. Even movie industries have to get other financial backup, financial help or whatever, I mean to say, from other sources. I just don't want to mention explicitly for some reasons, but it's kind of open truth that they don't get funding via banks or something like that. In case if you want to set up an IT company, you have this other ways of investments and other stuff, but it is quite a challenging thing in the case of movie industry, because the way these financiers will see the industry is, assume you take a movie, it may get hit or may not get hit, so they don't fund it as such. Okay, so this is what, versus in other industries, there will be some sort of assets, so they will see that there is a value in the asset, and based on some criteria and based on that niche market, what your business model is, they tend to, fund you. Okay, so this is what, anyway, coming back to the IT stuff. So what happens is, in my dad's case, it is well and good he stayed as an associate director, because in case he becomes a director, there are also chances if it doesn't suit for him, he is not doing any creative stuff, then he is never going to succeed. He is going to get into a very bad situation. So I seen literally many of his known contacts who been even directors, and unfortunately they end up selling their property and almost coming down on the streets. Okay, so this is not something common man will know about. Okay, so this is all happens. So similarly, when you think about IT industry, so by the time you reach some age, not everyone can become a manager, and moreover, once you become a manager, you will have less and less openings. So that is also another problem. So if you compare any company, you think guys who have around 2+ or 3+ years experienced, there will be lot of openings, there will be hundreds of openings on all these job portals. But when it comes to a position like manager or something, they take long time, they take 6 months or 1 year of time, then they handpick each and every individual unless until they meet most of the criteria. But they can they can sacrifice some of this criteria in the question, in a question like hiring somebody like 2+ or 3+ years of experience. Okay, some skill sets he may not have. The company will think, okay, let me just invest some money and train this guy and then put him into some sort of a project which they are intended for. So this often happens even in my situation. When I joined in Akamai, I have core systems software development, as everyone knows, and I was into protocol development, and I did my custom protocols, and even now I do custom protocols and network architecture, network software architecture and stuff. And so when I joined Akamai, there is a particular criteria that to fit in a role like service performance, you need to be like a part admin, you need to be like a part programmer, you need to have some sort of edge for that specific role. You need to be like an investigator, you need to be a very quick learner. In fact, I've been into a complete Oracle course along with my manager and a couple of colleagues, and I was able to optimize a specific query which is around 500-600 lines of a query which is running around 28 hours down to just 6 hours. So it's just programming. Since I'm very good in programming, I can optimize the query which they are putting, and of course, although I'm new to SQL, I'm just a quick learner. So this is what. So things like that quite often happens when you are at the age of 5-6 years or 10 years within that in the industry. But once you cross a specific age or specific amount of experience, you get quite brittle. You no longer have that capability to learn new stuff, and this is the common nature of human beings. So as you get older, you don't tend to perceive things quickly as possible like what it was been earlier. So in case if you are working in a specific technology or something like that, and now suddenly there is a case that you are out of job, and now wherever you apply, they are asking your same skills what you have, plus they are also making some mandatory skills like SAS, or I'm sorry, not SAS, SDN, or some sort of cloud based technology or virtualization, or whatever it is. So in case if you don't fill that gap, see, recruiters see this way. Okay, this is also much confusion when it comes to job seekers. I see no matter whatever the age they are, but they have this sort of a perception. You have IT companies and they're they see these IT companies as job providing companies. That's it. Okay, they don't see the other aspect of these companies is to conduct business, earn revenue through the business, and then as a part of that they need employees, so they are giving the jobs, and they are providing the jobs, and they are paying you as a part of remuneration or salary, whatever it is. Okay, so that way when a recruiter hires, he definitely see as much as possible to get a person who have as much as possible the skill sets is required. He looks always a person who fits that criteria, and also someone who exceeds that criteria, because it's just like construct a room. See, this is a bedroom. You can't make a bedroom which can fit only just one double cot bed or something. You need to have some extra room. You never know what is going to, what is that you are going to keep extra. So, in fact, I thought moving my desk out of this room and keeping it in a hall or something. But I felt the hall is quite large in my house. It's very large, and I felt not that comfortable sitting in that large space. And I like this ambience. I felt something here. I feel comfortable. I like somewhere it is warm, and which I can put a lot of my focus and attention. And also sometimes since I talk with my abroad clients, I need also a quieter place. Okay, so this is what. Okay, so I didn't like much a place like that. So that's why I'm saying when they take any employee, just like you build a house, you build any specific room, they are going to have some extra room, so that they take this person, and then they see that this person can also address the upcoming needs or technologies. He can well adapt, or maybe he have already a knowledge on that. So naturally in India, since we have a lot of supply of so-called talent or the engineers, so naturally when they do any hiring, they do a lot of grilling, and then a lot of filtering happens. This is not the case in abroad. So in abroad, assume they need a guy, out of 5 guys they interview, most probably they may settle down with one person. But in India, we need to do with around 100 guys, and in that 100 guys there will be still a question whether to take or not a specific guy. Things like that do happen. So they do shortlisting, they do interview everything. Again, they tend to shortlist. In that best of best they can think about, and then they choose. So this is what. So in this type of a scenario, we are in this private industry, so we should understand you will get benefits or whatever as long as you are in the job. The moment you are jobless, you have to be your own, and this is something many people are not trained. Unfortunately, what happened is many people, we have this culture of, earlier, when you think about 60s and 70s, we have this government jobs. Many people want to marry their daughter. They look for a guy who is preferably in a stable government job, and if he is in a very good position, but it is a private sector, they never used to like such matches. Okay, so this is what. But nowadays we are more open, and government jobs is really hand-picked. So society have changed, the mentality and mindsets have been changed. So this is what. So but if you seriously analyze in terms of private sector, nothing have changed. Only thing is maybe a little bit the salary have increased than what it existed during 60s, 50s or 70s comparatively. So other than that, when you are jobless, anytime you can become jobless, you will never get some kind of lifetime benefits and other things. What is going to be associated always with a government job, no matter which country you live. So this is not something going to happen only in a country like India. No matter where you are, always a government job is going to give you some additional benefits. It will cover a lot of things you need utmost important throughout your life. So even after you retire, they are going to pay you in terms of pensions and other benefit schemes, including health, healthcare and other stuff. So it's just not giving some pension. What about healthcare? If it is an emergency, your wife is having an issue, even those things are taken care. So that's why it's a lot more secure. But when it comes to private sector, jobs, anytime you can lose, anytime you can be idle, anytime you may have gaps in your career. This is a part of any private sector based industry. So unfortunately many don't understand this aspect. So when my dad was in movie industry, trust me, he used to be in a company, he used to be in a specific project or a movie. Once the movie is over, he used to take a break of complete 3 months or something, and sometimes 2 months, sometimes 3 months, sometimes more than that. In between, he never used to get any projects. So he need to sit and eat whatever he earned before. So this is a sort of scary situation it was. But unfortunately, he's in a profession like that. Many don't understand. Professions like that is lot more riskier when you in fact compare it with something like IT. So this is what. So these things are going to be there because you are in this private sector. You may get some benefits whatever as long as you are hired, and based on that you float in the sky and you invest yourself in a expensive lifestyle. Then you need to face the consequences the moment you are out of job. Okay, so this is what. So unfortunately, there's a lot of community in there's a lot of population. It's not well accustomed to this nature of industry which is going to offer, and then they think that IT industry you have a lot of risk factor, and there is a lot of going to be a suicide rate which is happening or going to happen in the future. But it is not like that. One thing is, you are in a complete unorganized sector. Anytime it's a complete private sector, anytime you can secure a job, if there is any based on the economy, based on the job availability, and also based on the trends. So nowadays people talk about data sciences and AI, and these are certain things always will change time to time. See, when I was in college, there is a craze on Java, but when being a very good programmer, I even thought Java is interesting, but after some time I really felt it is one of the most pathetic languages. When I compare with something like a system software, code, because you have a lot of spaghetti like code, and you have it's a different stuff. So yeah, people in UI and applications may not agree, but it is needed. I'm not saying Java is bad stuff, it is needed. But when I compare to this thing, I cannot accept getting myself into stuff like that. So during that time, even there's a boom in SAP and other stuff. And then there is a trend moved from there around 2008 or something like that. You have this cloud technologies, and then you have all this new jobs which evolved, which is also covering about cloud technologies, SaaS applications and stuff like that. So during 2006, 7, 8, SaaS applications were quite popular, and that's the time we started seeing applications like Google Drive and other stuff where you can do it online. You no longer need a local install like MS Office or something in your laptop. Instead, you can have SaaS applications backed up by cloud technologies. So this is also something people are not aware of earlier, because we used to have local install, we used to have trial software licenses and other stuff during 2000 till 2005 or something like that. And then SaaS took over. We have fast networks. See, first to have a very good SaaS application, we need to have fast networks, and that's when we started getting this fast networks, and that enabled the SaaS as well as fast compute platform like good processors and other stuff. So that also sparked the cloud technologies, and by that time we see we are unable to scale up with the Moore's law, and then what happened is we started increasing the number of cores in the CPU. So now we have lot of virtualization technologies, because we can now take a server platform, we can consolidate entire rack into a specific server, we can do server consolidation, we can do data center consolidation, and also stuff like that. So now we have all this virtualization stuff, let it be virtualization or containers, whatever it is. I'm just including everything under one basket. So other than that, now we have all this intelligent data, and then now we need some type of machine learning and AI, and other than that data science and other stuff, because now we have the IoT is constantly bringing us lot of data, real-time data, and now we can put intelligence on this data and see how far the businesses can leverage. This is also sometimes many old generation is unable to understand why there is a trend shift. You should understand, it's not something your tech is driving this need, it is a requirement, business needs it. Okay, if you see my aspect, see, I have abroad students, I have Indian students, I see some relationship between time to time how I get somebody from abroad, let it be not students, even abroad clients. So there's a sort of a reason why they come to me, and then they have a specific unique requirement, and how they expect me to address, why they can find somebody locally, why, or else they can find somewhere else, why they should approach. So this is what it is. They need someone who thinks in this broader aspects, at the same time they need someone who thinks in a much global stance. Okay, so this is what. So which is why nowadays we have more server compute platform with hundreds of CPU cores, and now we can consolidate so much stuff inside a single chassis, and then we can do server consolidation and as well as data center consolidation and stuff like that. So earlier we had blade servers, and now we have once again we have moved out, we are a little bit moving out from that. Of course we do have blade servers, I'm not denying that, but still we tend to little bit to go out from that, and then we have a different type of computer platform. We have AFAs, all-flash arrays, and we have innovations in storage tech, we have innovations in processing power. So based on that, these things, new things are getting driven. So when you think about IoT, the business aspect of IoT is take all the statistics, take all the data, and the business community, all they think about is gather the data and make a sense of it, and then put a new business model out of it. Suppose if you are selling some product, let's assume you are selling a pen or something, or else this a mechanical pencil. Okay, they see that out of X amount of customers, is that men who are buying it, women who are buying it, in which location, how is that demographics and stuff like that. Based on that they change the marketing tactics. Let's assume this green colored one is not preferred by women, so if there are more women are buying this product, in fact than focusing on this foolish men, they can make more pink pens to attract more girls, okay, pink and red pens, so that they can get more women to get as a customer. So this is how data science and also machine learning is going to help. So let it be fashion industry, let it be tech, or let it be whatever it is. That is why we have data science now. Okay, so this is what. So unfortunately I see that the more old generation, they are unable to scale up with this type of trend, emerging trends, and also the things, the way the things are getting shaped up and getting scaled up and stuff like that. So unfortunately at your age, in case if you are struck with something, first and foremost, as I say, you are in a private sector, anytime you can lose your job and anytime. There's absolutely no guarantee about it, and moreover there is a lot of possibility that this year or next year we may get a recession due to all other global factors. Now we have country versus country tension. You have also this economic war between so and so country, as you know. So now with all this conflict, it's just a matter of a specific event. It can trigger any sort of market crash, and that can trigger any scam, or it may expose any scam, and then it may even lead to some type of a war, or any such or some kind of conflict, and then it can lead to some recession and stuff like that. So that is going to translate into joblessness and market correction and stuff like that. So as a consequence, you are going to lose your job, and as a consequence, it may take long time to find any alternate job. So there is nothing guaranteed. Like there are hundreds going to, let's assume there are hundreds going to lose their job, and there is no guarantee going to be that when you will be again placed, and by that time you are 40 years or something, your same skill sets, even a 25 or 28 years boy is going to offer better than you, and he is going to be more updated with the latest technologies than you. And so when you think about hiring and getting back to a job, the industry sees he is a better resource and a cheaper resource and a skillful resource than somebody like you. And unfortunately, such things is going to lead into depression and stuff like that. Unfortunately, it may also kind of a cause for any suicidal tendencies and stuff like that, which is why I'm saying it's not a issue with the specific domain or something. This is a domain, generally it is driven by private sector. Anything can happen in private sector, and moreover anything can happen in jobs, and moreover it's just not doing job is going to feed you ever. Okay, you need to think in a much broader scale. Your dad must have been a carpenter, or your dad must have been a shopkeeper. You have such professions. Unfortunately, now everybody have left their family professions and the family skills what they had. Unfortunately, we are behind this trend about getting some job elsewhere, and we are not self-dependent on ourselves. We are not standing up on our own legs, and this is what is the consequence happens as long as you are in a situation about depending on others, and you need to be under someone's okay. So that's what actually, so nothing can be predicted. You may get, you may not get, you may never ever get, and stuff like that can happen. So unfortunately, you need to be prepared for all these consequences. It's anything which is dominated with this type of trend, especially this emerging technologies and stuff like that, like IT is going to have this sort of a thing. And soon like we have gadgets getting obsolete, okay, something else is going to replace. The same way, even your skill sets and even yourself is going to get obsolete, and you will be replaced by young, talented, skillful guys rather than experienced, obsolete people in this industry. Okay,